Hello, my friends. Jerry Rosa here in the Rosa String Works Workshop with another edition of Shop Talk. Sadly, today, as you can probably tell from the title, I have to say goodbye to another good music friend. Her name was Mary Jane Morrow-Owens. And it's kind of sad because she's just a really nice friend, a good gal, a wonderful singer, as you will hear very shortly. I'm going to be playing a few of her songs throughout the Shop Talk today. In fact, I've got 3 of them lined up, and I know you'll enjoy them. We would go to the ITCMA competition, which is the Illinois Traditional Country Music Show, and most often Mary Jane would win the Country Singer Award. So, it's a really sad day for me because, just have to realize that I won't ever be able to see her again. She turned 60 about 2 weeks ago and had a picking party up there in northern Missouri, and I neglected going, and I wanted to go really bad. I really did. But I didn't go because I had 2 trips right back to back right after that. And I thought, man, I don't like driving anyway, and it's 3 hours one way up there, and I've got to go to Ohio, and then I've got to go to Mountain View. So basically, it was just a bunch of excuses at my old age is really what it amounts to. And now I'm so sad I didn't go because I could have at least seen her, and we could have, had another jam together. What I heard was that she had started up the stairs and collapsed, and they were not able to revive her. So she was a young 60 years old, and here's her first song, Brown Mountain Light.
Days of the old covered wagon, when we'd camp on the flat for the night, and the moonlight shone dim on the high point rim, we'd watch for the brown mountain light. High on a mountain and deep in the canyons below, it shines like the crown of an angel and fades as the mist comes and goes. Way over yonder, night after night until dawn, a lonely old slave comes back from the grave, searching, searching, searching for his master's long gone home. They say that a rich southern planter came hunting in this wild land alone, and there, so they say, the hunter lost his way and never returned to his home. High on a mountain and deep in the canyons below, it shines like the crown of an angel and fades as the mist comes and goes. Way over yonder, night after night until dawn, a lonely old slave comes back from the grave, searching, searching, searching for his master's long gone home. A faithful old slave brought a ladder and searched, but in vain day and night. The old slave is gone, but his spirit lingers on and carries the brown mountain light. Searching, searching, searching for his master's long gone home. Searching, searching, searching for his master's long gone home.
Oh, it's nice to hear her sing it again. One of the things Mary loved to do was to perform for the crowds. She really did enjoy performing. We have, we had 90 viewers just a moment ago. Unfortunately, it looks like we've dropped a couple. We're down to 81, but that's okay. That happens a lot on these view counts. I see that all the time where it goes up and down. But we do have quite a few people for this early, and I see they're from all over. We've got them from Massachusetts, Florida, California, Northern Ireland, Scotland, Cape Girardeau, Buckhorn, Ontario, Canada, Oklahoma, and another one from Canada. So we've got a lot of folks on here, and glad to have you. The Cape Girardeau one there is Wayne Morgan. Now, Wayne, I don't think I know Wayne offhand, but anyway, down in Cape Girardeau, I watch a show on YouTube called Cape Copters, and I watch him flying his helicopters all the time and his gyrocopters. And if it weren't for my being such a devout, person, basically I'm a devout coward. If it wasn't for that, I'd probably have a gyrocopter. Anyway, there you go. We're down to 73 viewers, so I guess I'm losing them left and right here. We do have an instrument in the shop here. Jason and Jeremy from down at the acoustic shop in Springfield, Missouri, showed up. Actually, I thought they were coming yesterday, which was Thursday, and they showed up on Wednesday afternoon. They texted me and said they were on their way, and I went, I thought they were coming tomorrow. That's the old man in me. I get everything mixed up these days and screwed up, I guess. Anyway, they brought me this mandolin, and they said to me that there's something wrong with it, and they wouldn't tell me what it was. They said I had to figure it out on my own, so I thought maybe I'd show it to you guys. Now we're down to 67 viewers. I wonder why. I've never seen it really drop like that. It might be because apparently I'm having trouble with the internet today, and some people may just be logging off because they don't like the dropped frames. I got a notice that it was dropping frames. So that's Starlink for you. Some days it works great, some days not so good. So if you're experiencing dropped frames there, or if you're seeing it stutter or whatever, I apologize, but there's not a thing I can do about it, unfortunately. Anyway, they brought me this mandolin, and they said I had to figure out what was wrong with it. They just couldn't figure it out. So I thought I'd let you guys take a look at it and see if you could help me. I just figured it out. It ain't got no strings. People have more fun than anybody. Hey, we're climbing back up. We're back up to 75. As soon as I start showing instruments, there you go. Deja vu all over again. The J. Ford mandolin that I did this on, well, this is a little higher dollar mandolin. This is a Larrivee mandolin. And it broke. Looks like a really finely made, well-made mandolin, so I don't see any problem with that part of it. But I do actually see a problem with their building on the neck. I really do. It's almost exactly the same as the J. Ford. I'm going to put it up here and let you see it. Look how thin it is around here. It's thinner than it looks. That washer is showing like it's part of the thickness, but it's not. It's really thin there. I mean, honestly, that's not even an 1/8 inch thick. That's, 2/16 would be, an 1/8, so I guess it would be 3/32 thick. It's not an 1/8 inch thick. It's really thin there. And so when you weaken them that much, and if they experience any kind of a bump, with 8 strings on them, good luck on that holding. Yeah, and you can even see it on this end how thin it is. It's crazy thin right there. The camera and the light glares makes it look thicker in my eyes the way I'm seeing it, but I can tell you for sure it's very, very thin. That is definitely less than an 1/8 inch thick. And an 1/8 inch would be marginal. Less than an 1/8 inch is definitely too thin. So there's your problem right there, Vern. That's one of our commercials. We're back up to 102 viewers. You guys are just going to play games with my mind today. But anyway, so you obviously are going to be seeing a video on this, and they're going to cover it some on their channel as well. Apparently the story is this got damaged in shipping, and I don't know, trying to remember what they said. Now, I kind of think they already had it at their shop. They must have shipped it to someone else and it got broken. Must be what happened, because Jeremy said he remembered playing it and it played really nice. It was a really good sounding mandolin, and I guess they must have shipped it to a customer and it got broken shipping that way. And yeah, well, they said they asked several others to fix it or something, and they all declined. I can't imagine why. It's piece cake, nothing to it. So, just so you know, what we'll do is we'll take the hardware off of it and we'll cut a long bevel back to this point here, and we'll cut a long bevel in the neck back up to this, and then we'll put in a big wedge in there, and we'll try to match the wood as good as we can. It's a curly maple neck, so we'll try to find some good curly maple that will match and fit in there, and it'll be fine. It's just going to take a little work. So it's not that hard to fix, honestly. I mean, I realize that it's not simple to fix, but on the other hand, it's doable. Let's just say it that way. Got my Pepsi this morning. I don't drink coffee. My mom told me I wasn't old enough, and she never did tell me any different. We do have guests up at our rental retreat, and I got the impression they were going to be here for the live shop talk this morning, but I haven't seen them so far. So if they do come in, we'll probably introduce you to them as well. On a totally different subject entirely, though it does affect you, believe it or not, you just don't know it affects you, is recovery software. Software to recover files that have been deleted by accident, files that were corrupt or something like that is another possibility, but mostly for things that got deleted by accident. I'll tell you a story. Just the other day, and I say the other day meaning maybe a month ago. I don't remember when it was exactly, but it wasn't really long time ago. It was like within the last month. I had one of my cards. Now, these are really large cards, and I say really large. They're 128 gigabyte. That's really big. Considering my very first PC was only 20 megabytes, 128 gigabytes is huge. This is just enormous. It really is. 128 gigabytes is enormous. You can fit 1,000 megabytes in 1 gigabyte, and this is 128 gigabytes. So I had that full, well, not full completely, but it had a lot of files on it. In fact, you've already watched a good portion of both of those, and one of them was the Richter restoration, that Richter guitar. All of the files for the Richter were on that chip, and now that I think about it, all the files for the current Martin guitar that I'm restoring, and I'm doing the bridge plate and the bridge and the neck replacement. All of the files for that were also on one of these chips. And I had a couple of other junk files on the chip also. And so I had one of those junk files highlighted, and I absolutely know that's the case. It was just one file highlighted, and I clicked delete, and I deleted it, and it deleted everything on the chip. Now, you might say, oh, you just made a mistake. Well, maybe I did. But, what happens a lot of times, computers get in modes and they get confused. You really, if you don't know, you really need to restart your PC or computer at, if you're using it a lot, especially, you probably need to restart it at least once a day. That clears out the memory and gets the confusion out of the way. Well, I don't know if that's what the problem was or if I did accidentally do something I just didn't realize. But anyway, all I do know is all of the files were gone. So recovery software is what you need in a case like that, and you better get on it really fast. If you happen to write a new file to this before you recover, you're going to lose a lot of files. So you don't want to write anything new to anything that gets deleted, like a chip like this or your hard drive on your computer or on your tablet or anything. You don't want to do anything and save anything there until you recover what you just lost. So I immediately started looking for my recovery software, and I knew I had some. And I had 2 or 3 kinds. And it's just like everything. Everybody is out for that dollar these days. It's just feed me money, that's it. Everything's that way. And so all the recovery software I had changed to where you had to pay a monthly monthly fee or an annual fee. And I'm not into that kind of software. I really try to avoid it whenever I can. Well, then I found one of my other products that I had was called Recuva, R-E-C-U-V-A. Yeah, I'll say that one more time, R-E-C-U-V-A, Recuva. And so I found that one, and sure enough, that one is still free, basically. You can, at least they have a free version of it, or you can just pay a one-time fee and buy it. And I do have a link to that in my description of this video. And I'm not sponsored. I don't make that much on this by telling you this. I'm telling it to you as a public service so that if you lose data, you could get that Recuva software and recover it back. And as you can tell, it worked because you wouldn't have seen that whole Richter restoration, and you wouldn't have seen the Martin restoration that I'm doing, that HD28. So there you go. It's worth its weight in gold. And because of that, by the way, and I said this the other day to myself, I haven't done it yet, so I'm going to make a note, and I'm going to make sure that I do go actually buy the proper version of it because it's worth paying for. So I am definitely going to do that. Okay. That was it. So I'm going to play you another song from Mary. This one is the brand new Tennessee Waltz.
Wish I could be there too, but I left Tennessee in a hurry, dear, the same way that I'm leaving you. Oh, love is many memories, and everyone's got a few. It's a brand new Tennessee waltz be like I found you, dear. Descending Victorian stairs, I'm feeling like one of your photographs, with not even you left to care. So have all your passionate violins play a tune for this Tennessee kid who's thinking of leaving another town with no place to go if she did. It's a brand new Tennessee waltz. You're literally waltzing on air. It's a brand new Tennessee waltz with no telling who will be there. With no telling who will be there.
Oh, Mary Jane has a wonderful voice. She's a fine lady. Just really loved playing music with her. She was easy to tease, you know. And you know me, I couldn't resist. I always had to tease her. So anyway, I'll miss her greatly. Got a lot of questions during that, I just noticed in comments and things. Someone asked, what is the power of the close-up glasses that I use? By the way, I do recommend these glasses that clip together. They're really handy in the shop, you know. I don't know about for other reasons, but for the shop, you can put them on like this. I only use them for close-up, and I don't even really need them most of the time. I can actually see up pretty darn close. It's just that if I really want super fine detail, I go ahead and put those on. I could read up to this close. I really could. So it's not that big of a deal. Although I didn't even need the reading glasses at all until about, I don't know, 20 years ago or so. The power on them, someone asked, is what the question actually was, and I think these are just 1.5 or something like that. So that's what I use. That's all I need. But I think that would depend on you and your eyes. Someone asked during that little interlude there, does the truss rod weaken that? Well, yeah, absolutely does. And I've made that comment in videos before, that on a mandolin with my laminated necks, I don't feel like I need a truss rod at all. And in the world's finest mandolin ever built by a human, since I was building it for me, I didn't put a truss rod in it. And I don't feel like I've got any problem with that neck, and I doubt I ever will. So, it's, but everybody will argue that differently, and so I'm not going to get into that fight. But my opinion is, and I've got mandolins that are 40 years old now that don't have truss rods, and they're just fine. So there you go. Scott Roberts says, you just wanted to spin the necking, didn't you? Well, that wouldn't be a bad way to spend the day. But anyway, let's see. And someone else said, they got the perfect glue for this, hide glue. Run and hide. Clyde Lewis just gave me a super chat, $10. Thank you very, very much, Clyde. You really don't know how much I do appreciate that, especially since this is my income nowadays. Let's see. Someone else asked, what else did the Chapmans do while they were here? They gave me that. We joked around a little bit and stuff and cut up a little bit, but it was just the two of them. It was just Jason and Jeremy. Jason is the one that plays the bass typically, and Jeremy is the one that plays the mandolin typically, and John didn't show up. So John. I don't know, John, he was probably busier holding down the fort at the shop, probably. But anyway, they're going to come back, of course, when they pick this up, and we'll maybe try to do something, and maybe have a jam together, and using this mandolin in part of the jam. So we'll do something when they come back. And I kind of want to give them a tour of the farm too, so they may take time for that also. But we'll see how that all goes. Boy, the comments are really scrolling up. We got 119 folks on right now. Let's see, what's the next thing? Okay, I want to cover some of these questions. Some of these questions that I've saw scrolling up are already in my questions list. And so let me just read the questions list for you now, and then we'll talk about each one of them individually. One of them says, why don't you use a radius top on your guitars? Why? And the next one is, why don't you use hardwoods from the farm for my guitars? Someone wants to know what cameras I use and what software I use and that type of thing. Another person asks, what are the essential tools a luthier needs? I find that is the hardest question of all, to be honest with you. Lacquer thinner, they want to know percentages and how I use that. Fret wire variants, we're just going to have a little discussion about that. No one actually asked that question, but someone pointed out that fret wires vary quite a bit. Emily said she just loves my flowers that I show. I realize we have ladies watching, and I mean, it's not that men can't love flowers. I love flowers myself. I think they're just beautiful, One of God's greatest wonders, really. Why do we need beautiful flowers? I don't know. I just think they're beautiful, and I'm glad they're here. So 124 viewers. So we're climbing slowly now. And by the way, I did get more notices that frames are dropping. There's not a thing that I know to do for it. I've got every other computer on the farm turned off. In fact, I've only got a direct line from here to Starlink, and that's it right now. And that's the only thing on the thing. So that's the best I can do to try to alleviate traffic and make it work better. I did get a comment from someone in Scotland said it's perfectly clear there. So, it would be in Scotland. I mean, Scotland's one of those cool places, everything's got to be good there in Scotland, doesn't it? Mr. Rosa needs more likes. I saw that pop up. Thank you very much. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the questions, and I'm going to try to go through them fairly quickly so we don't run out of time. You know how that is with me. I don't get wordy or anything. Why don't I make radius top guitars? Well, probably for the same reason I don't get on forums. I really wanted to talk about forums more than radius top guitars. No, it really is the same kind of thing. When you get on these forums, there are so many experts on there. And they know everything, and there ain't nobody can argue with them about anything. One of those things is radius tops on your flat top guitar. Well, I hate to break it to you, but every Martin guitar that I've seen that's a flat top Martin guitar is flat. You can call it radius if you want, but most of the time that radius has been pulled in there from the strings. Now, you can't go on a forum and say that because they will eat you alive. But that's why I don't build radiuses into my flat top guitars, because they aren't radiused, even though the popular thing out there on the internet is that these tops are radiused. No, they're not. Sorry, they're flat as a pancake. You can lay a ruler across them or something, and they're flat as they can be. Now, I'm not saying there aren't some that are built that way. I'm not an idiot, okay? I'm just saying that the ones that I build and the ones that I see most often are flat as a pancake, or they're supposed to be. And the problem is the strings pull a radius into them. So that's the end of the story from my lips, and you can take it, if you want to go by these keyboard warriors that are on these forums and listen to what they got to say, then fine, just go ahead and do that. If you prefer to get your information from them, I say go ahead. I got no problem with that. Why I don't use hardwoods from the farm for my guitars? Well, you could kind of go halfway on that one. I kind of do and I kind of don't. I mean, I do use a lot of the hardwoods from the farm for trim pieces and decorative pieces and things like that. And I have built at least a half dozen mandolins from sycamore, the hardwoods on the farm, and I am positive sycamore would make an excellent guitar. I guess the problem is I've just run out of time. And the hands, and by the way, people ask all the time about the hands, and honestly, if anything, they're just considerably worse. I mean, they really are. I try not to get on it too much, but they're bad. They're really bad. And they ache like crazy a lot of times, and a lot of times it wakes me up at night, I'm just screaming. And please don't suggest more cures and ideas and things. I've tried hundreds at this point, hundreds, and not one single thing works. It's hereditary arthritis, and it ain't going to get no better. I am 100% convinced it's all downhill from here. And, I have tried every kind of cream you can imagine. I put on 2 different kinds last night, and it didn't help. The main reason I put the creams on these days, one of them was CDB or whatever you call that, CBD, one of the two, whatever that word is, CDB, I think. One of them was a CDB ointment, and the other one was something from Australia. I put them on because my hands were dry. And I figured it won't hurt to put them, put that kind of stuff on there if it's supposed to help, and it just doesn't. Sorry. The next question was cameras I use and the softwares I use. Well, I have covered this a number of times, and actually I looked for the video because I'm sure I made an actual video, positive I did, when I had my shop in the office there. I remember making a video about my cameras and my software and stuff, or at least about the editing and how much time it took and all that. But I'll give you a synopsis. What I do is incredibly simple compared to most YouTubers. I keep it, it's the old KISS theory, keep it simple. Well, you're looking at it right here. This is how simple it is. I don't even have any external microphones or anything. This is a T7i. It's an EOS Rebel T7i. It's a Canon, as you can see there. And it's pretty much stock. It's got a zoom, zoom wide angle lens. It goes from 18 to 55. 18 to 55. And I do use that zoom quite a bit. I absolutely, everything you hear on all my videos comes through the built-in mic on this. There are no external mics whatsoever. You can buy little remotes for them also, and these are a little bit of a treat to, sync up to the camera, but they're not crazy hard. You just have to find a video on YouTube to know how to do that, and I've done it a number of times. I have 2 of those cameras. I actually have 3 of the cameras, but I broke one of them, and it doesn't auto focus anymore properly, so I don't use it. But I do still have 2 of them. One of them is up here. Can't turn the camera a little bit, but you can see the one right there in the window, and that's the one on the articulating arm that I can swing out and pull up closer and point it down towards the desk and stuff where I'm doing all the work. So I have 2 of those, and then the software that I use, today I'm using Streamlabs OBS, Streamlabs Desktop actually, and that's for the live stuff. But then for the normal videos and video editing, I use Video Studio, which was my first copy of that came from Jeff. You know me and names. I hate myself with names. I know his name as good as I know my name. I just can't say it right now because I need to. But anyway, he's from elderlyiron.com and This Old Truck on YouTube. And Jeff and I have been buddies for quite a while. I fixed one of his guitars, and we just kind of hit it off. And he calls me every once in a while. We talk on the phone. I'm not big at calling other people, though. I'm not a real phone talker type person. So sorry, Jeff. I should quit dropping the ball and call you sometime. But anyway, I'm just that way. I worked for the phone company for 27 and a half years. I was on the phone all day long, every day. So any chance I get to avoid talking on the phone, I pretty much take it. That's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it. Anyway, so that's pretty much it. Video studio and that. And that's about as simple as it could be, and that's pretty much all I do. Now, if I was going to be doing stuff more outside a lot, then I would probably invest in some, better equipment for the outdoors, the outdoor microphones, and maybe get another GoPro. I did have a GoPro for a while. I was not impressed with the early GoPros. The ones now probably would be fine because they do have at least a way to see what's going on. That's what I hated about the other ones. You didn't have any kind of a viewfinder type deal or any kind of a picture on the early ones. But nowadays they're quite improved. So I might get another GoPro and start doing a little bit more outdoor stuff. These cameras work great for outdoors, just a little more bulky and awkward, and the microphone can pick up a lot of wind noise. So you kind of need something for the microphone when you go outdoors. But inside, these work perfect. So that's about it on the cameras. Now, essential tools, as I said, this is probably the hardest thing for me to address. And the reason is, I think it's because it really depends on a lot of things. It depends on how you like to work. It depends on your skill set. It really depends on a lot of stuff, what your knowledge level is on a lot of things. But for me, I've said this many, many times before, the most obvious tool I need, I'm going to move the camera again, is my thickness sander, which is behind this microphone. That thickness sander right there, you could cut my arm off before I'd let you get out of here with that thickness sander. Honestly, the thickness sander is my essential tool. I can't do anything without using that thickness sander. I would say my second most used tool, and to be truthful, maybe my first most used tool is my bandsaw. I love my bandsaw, and I love my thickness sander. Those, to me, are essentials, absolute black and white essentials. I don't think I could do the work I do here without those two tools for sure. So that's the way I work. You might feel differently. So that's why I think this is such a hard thing to cover. And then, of course, you see me using my finger planes all the time. I love my finger planes. I think those are just essential tools. But I could see how a lot of people could get by without using a finger plane hardly at all. So, for you might not need the finger plane. But for me, I think it's absolutely essential. And then, of course, good rasps and good files and, good sandpaper, things like that. What else? You don't need as much as you think. Then you need, you need good fret working equipment. So you need that good fret leveling file that I use all the time that I make. I made it just out of a 6-inch bastard file. You don't need as much as you think you might need. In terms of saws and things, that bandsaw, you can do almost everything you can do with any other saw. You can pretty much do it with one bandsaw, really. Not as good on some things, like your table saw is very handy on a lot of things, but generally speaking, a table saw isn't that necessary for instruments. You don't hardly ever really use a table saw for instruments. I have a good table saw. I use it quite often, but not all that often for instruments, if you get right down to it. I don't know. It's real. That's, like I said, that's the hardest question for me to answer is what are the essential tools? It just depends on how you go about working. A drill press, by the way, would be another one that I'd say you got to have a drill press. You can get by with a hand drill. You could get by with that, and maybe if if budget's tight, maybe the drill press would be the thing you'd add later. Just have you use a regular hand drill first. But I'm going to probably just let it go at that. I probably sounds like a real downer for most of you because I'm maybe not covering what you're expecting me to cover. Someone asked lacquer thinner percentages. Well, here again, contrary to the forums that you would be on, I'm going to tell you I'm not an expert when it comes to finishes. Finishes is my weakest area of expertise. For the longest time, because I learned it in high school, I'll be honest with you, that's where I learned it. I was putting 50-50 lacquer thinner and lacquer. A lot of you will probably immediately say, oh, that's way too much thinner. Well, that's where I learned it, was in high school from the shop teacher. And I've always continued to do it that way. Well, recently I've learned that maybe that's too much. Maybe you should not put that much in there. So I have dropped back to about 2/3 lacquer and 1/3 thinner. And I feel like that covers faster, and of course it should. It makes sense that it would. The reason that the 50-50 works great is you don't get the runs and things because it dries much faster that way. So, I don't consider myself the expert and the guy that you should be asking that question of. I just give you what I've been doing, and that's the best I can do for you. Someone made the comment that fret wire sizes vary quite a bit. Now, I think that comment came from the fact that they just saw me recently talk about the fretboard on, I think it was the lower mandolin that I'm finishing. It's hanging there. You can barely see the bottom of it right there. Anyway, I'm almost done with that mandolin. I just haven't had time to get back to it. But I made the comment in that video that this was a perfect example of how fret wires are not level. I don't care how good you think you are, how good you think you drive frets in a fretboard, you'll never get them perfectly level. Well, the commenter said that they got out their calipers and things and measured fret wire very accurately, and they found variances from a couple thousandths to 5 thousandths just in the fret wire itself. And I don't doubt that. I wouldn't quite have expected that much, but I don't doubt it either, because 1/1000th of an inch is very tiny. It's really, really tiny. And it sounds like 5 thousandths would be so much. It's still really tiny. And so I can see how it could vary that much. But then I've made the comment that when you drive your frets in, that they have to be level, at least in the relative area, within 1/1000th inch of each other. And in other words, from this end of the fretboard to this end of the fretboard, they don't have to be perfectly level. But as you go down through there, all the frets in that area, and all the frets in this area, and all the frets in this area, and all the frets in this area, don't get me wrong, they got to be close from one end to the other. But I'm saying they have to be perfectly level as you move relative from one to the other. Because when you note the fret, like right here, the fret, if that's the back end or the tail end of the guitar, and this is, you're picking back here, the next fret after where you note is the clearance is going to be so minimal. If you get down and look at that, just fret it and get down and look and see how much clearance. You'll be amazed how little clearance there is. And therefore, if it's off by a couple thousandths of an inch, you're going to have a problem. So anyway, the whole point is that whenever you do a fret job, I don't care what fret job it is, how you're doing it, whether you're putting brand new frets in or whether you're filing old frets, you got to get them all level first. And if they're brand new, I don't care if they're absolutely brand new out of the package and you just drove them in, you've got to level them. And if you don't, you're not doing your job very well. And that's the name of that tune. Of course, then you want to recrown them and all that. And then that last comment I had there was that Emily said she loves the flowers. And I'll just say that again. So thank you, Emily. I appreciate that. I try to show a variety of stuff. And speaking of a variety of stuff, you know how a vlog or two ago, I showed the hornet's nest that I found in the backyard. I found that the day I got back from Mountain View, Arkansas, I found that big hornet's nest. Well, we've had 3 mornings now since then in the 20s. And yesterday it warmed up to 75 degrees. So I thought, well, I'm going to go over there and see if there's any activity on that hornet's nest. And sure enough, I saw 3 different hornets go in and out. So they're still in there. You know, some people said, oh, it's already been cold enough, they're already gone. Well, sorry, they're not. You know, I just watched them yesterday and they're still going in and out. So you got to be careful with that kind of thing. All right, here's song number 3, the final song from my wonderful friend Mary. So listen up.
Episode came to an end. They only knew of Simon Crutchfield's grave. Mary Crutchfield, you should be ashamed. Get on your knees and pray your soul be saved. Riley Harper, if the devil is to blame, why can't you drive by Simon Crutchfield's grave? She betrayed the love that Simon gave. Riley Harper, here lies Riley Harper, because he couldn't drive by Simon Crutchfield's grave.
Come on in. Well, we just had our guest show up, so we'll introduce him in just a minute. That was the Morrow sisters, and the girl you could hear singing that wonderful harmony in the background is Patty, and Patty is Mary Jane's sister, and Patty Chandler is her last name. And Patty made a comment there. It says, thanks so much for the wonderful tribute to Mary. I can tell you she'd be tickled to be heard all over the world, like Canada and Scotland and pretty much everywhere. So, yeah, she's going to be missed. I really enjoyed playing music with Mary, and I really loved teasing her. She was a lot of fun. There have been quite a few comments scrolling up to screen. We're going to get to all those. Before we get to those two, I did want to mention that Mary's father, John, known as Jack also, Morrow, was a fiddle maker, made a lot of fiddles. Lots of people in Missouri have his fiddles. I can't even tell you how many he made, but I would say it probably numbered around 100 or maybe more fiddles that he made, and did a really nice job. And Patty there was singing the wonderful harmony part in that song, and she was playing the fiddle also. So one of Jack's fiddles, I am positive of that. So anyway, great to have you on here, Patty, and she sure will be missed. Okay, so now we're going to go to the questions that are scrolling up the screen. And actually, before we do that, I think I'll introduce my guest. Step over here, tell them your name and where you're from and what you're here for.
Hello, my name is Drew. I'm from Imperial, Missouri, which is about an hour.
I know right where that is, yeah.
Yeah, about an hour east of here. And maybe more.
Yeah, a little bit more than that probably. It's, maybe 30, 40 minutes south of St. Louis, I guess?
Yep, you got it. So right over the Jefferson County border.
Yeah. No, right where it is. And did you bring something for me?
I did. So I know that you're a fan of early
Yeah.
mandolins.
Sure.
And so this is a mandolin from 100 years ago this year.
I promise you, I have not laid eyes on this yet. This is the first time I've ever seen it. So I thought we'd just do an evaluation on camera and see what that looks like. Wow, looks like a Martin.
Yeah, this is a Martin
Oh, it is.
A1K.
Cool.
So the K is for koa. So it's all solid koa.
What year did you say it was?
1922, according to Martin's record.
22. And they were already using koa? I'll be darned. It is koa, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what they said whenever I called up the factory. So there's
I'll be darned.
CF Martin stamp on the back of the headstock.
I always got the impression koa was a later, use. I didn't know that they had used it that early. Yeah, and you can see, I don't know, it won't be clear in this camera, unfortunately, but you can see the Martin insignia back there. And looks like, are those original tuners? It looks like it.
They look original to me.
Yeah, they do look original. I don't see...
One Phillips head.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that must have been replaced.
Yeah, there is a Phillips head there. It looks like that. I don't see any other scarring around, so I would say they look like they could be original. The tailpiece looks like it probably could be original too. Don't really know on that one. It's got the different shaped top here. Now this one, just in case anybody's questioning, this is not a flat top. We had a little discussion earlier about guitars, and people are always saying these flat top guitars have a radius, and they don't. But this one is not flat. It falls off to the back here. It's made like the what I call the chili dipper mandolins, the ones that have the big round bowl back. The top is made like those, but the top has, it's put on a flat back, or this has got a slight curl to the back, but very slight. The body on this is a lot thicker. These will, and I haven't played this obviously because that's the first time I've ever seen it, but these always have a much hollower sound, partly because of the thickness of this body and partly because of the round sound hole. So these will always have their own unique sound. The strings look pretty high. I am positive the pick won't be held here. You can see it's not gonna hold the pick, and it's pretty high strings. Needs a little bit of tuning, but on a mandolin, it's always the A string. On a guitar, it's always the B string. play. It's hard to play for me because it's early in the morning. My hands are really stiff with the arthritis, but it's also hard because it's really high action. Otherwise, it looks really good. Looks really good to me. I don't see anything wrong with it other than just the real high action. Let me look down the frets. Fretboard's pretty flat. It doesn't have a huge underbow or anything, but the neck angle, it's a little bit this way. It's not horrible. The negative of that is you'd have to cut, in order to get this action down, you'd have to cut this bridge down quite a bit more, and it's still doable, I think. I think we could still do that. It's just a little bit, high. For my taste, what I don't like about the mandolin, if I'm just being totally honest, is the short neck. I'm not good with the short neck. I like the long neck mandolins because, I got huge hands for one thing. But anyway, it's a very nice mandolin, though. It looks really good. I would say it's been refinished, do you think?
That I'm not exactly sure. The things that I do know about it is
Yeah.
that there was a crack in the top that was repaired.
Okay.
So some bracing was loose on the inside also. That was repaired.
Yeah.
Looks like a tortoise inlay there, and that's where the crack was right along there.
I'm about 99% sure, I'll leave up 1% there, that it has been refinished. I am almost positive of that. And there's several little telling signs that make me think so. One of them is right in here, the way the finish looks around the pickguard. Another one is the way I see the finish in the back here. It looks like it's been sanded and they didn't quite get all the little pot marks out of it, and a little bit on the sides here, I see that. I am positive the finish has at least been touched up. Just absolutely positive of that. Now on this side, it doesn't look so much like that. It looks like it's almost natural here. But there's places definitely where I am sure finish has been sprayed on this. But that doesn't really hurt anything. I mean, you can kind of expect that kind of stuff from these old instruments. It is a pretty mandolin, very nice. So, yeah, I'd say for sure the bridge needs to be cut down. Let's just see about the intonation. You've got your tuner there, but I'm gonna just get up my little desktop tuner here because it's easier for me with my old eyes and everything, and I'm just used to using this.
Gotta go with what you know.
Yeah, except that it's being contrary here on camera. It won't sit up. Intonation looks pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty good. So the angle you see on this looks like it's pretty close. So that doesn't need much there. So it's just really just an action issue. Well, I'll let you put that away, and we'll go ahead and get into our questions and answers. Thanks for coming by. And he'll be sitting off camera and watch the rest of this if he wants to, or he can do whatever he chooses. I'm going to scroll up and then look for the first questions that I haven't already addressed, at least. And I'm looking for the question marks in front of the question. If you do have a question for me and you don't have question marks in front of it, I'll probably miss it. Yeah, so David McGee was the one that asked, does the truss rod also weaken it? And yeah, on that neck on that, yeah, for sure in that case, that truss rod had really been cut deep and it was way less than 1/8 of an inch. I'm looking for the first one here. Mike Soba. He was the one that asked what the Chapmans did in addition to bringing me more work, And in this case, that's pretty much all they did was bring me more work. Danny Brown says, what kind of camera are you? Okay, I covered that. I think he was the one that had asked that originally. Krabby Hayes says, where do you find time to do all the stuff you do? Well, yeah, when you're a workaholic and that's all you do is work, you find time, I guess. Mark and Company says, hi, Jerry. I'm a fellow musician and artist. I saw you had a shirt with your caricature on it. Who drew it? It's great. I draw portraits and caricatures. If you'd like, I could draw you, no charge. Well, Mark, I won't discourage that, but on the other hand, I'm trying to remember who drew it. I think it was, well, I don't know for sure, but there was a fellow that used to record in my recording studio. I don't have the recording studio anymore. It's in the basement of, or it used to be in the basement of my rental retreat where our guest is staying. And anyway, he came for, more than a decade. He was there often, probably once a month almost, and recording. And he's the one that gave me the shirt with the caricature. And I think it may have been a girlfriend of his that drew it. I don't really know. I'm just making that up. I just don't know who drew it. But anyway, he gave me like 50 of those shirts, and I gave them out to my grandkids and things like that. Let's see. Ava Smith, I just saw a note, a question mark at the end there. Accidentally noticed that one. When you restored chocolate, what was the hardest part for you? Well, Ava, I'll tell you, that's a real good question. And you know what? Those kinds of restorals, while they look like they're the epitome of the kind of work I could do, like they're, honestly, those kinds of jobs, and this is going to really sound almost like a brag, those are the easy jobs. See, you're just putting pieces back together. It's like you're solving a jigsaw puzzle. You're just putting pieces into it and gluing them. Those jobs are simple. I mean, they really are. People make them out to make like that's the really hard work. It's not. The hard work is like the one that's presently being viewed. We've got 2 parts out there on that Martin. That was hard. That was really hard. Because when you have to take them apart first and take them all, getting them apart, like I've said many, many times, there's no zipper. You have to break them to get them apart. It's way harder. So chocolate, in one way, chocolate was a piece of cake compared to the Martin I'm working on that you're seeing the videos on now. But when you said what was the hardest part on chocolate, I would say it was probably making the pieces to fit in that I didn't have. In other words, the few little parts that they just couldn't find or didn't have, and I had to make replacement pieces and fit them in there and then try to make them look like they belong there. That's probably the hardest thing on a restoral like that. And another example of that would be that Richter guitar where it was all busted and coming apart and all the braces were loose and all that. Again, that was actually a fairly simple job because you're just putting it back together. And as long as you got good clamping techniques and good glue, not hide glue, as long as you're using, like Tight Bond Original and good clamps, putting them back together is a piece of cake. So it's really not much of a big deal. I know that we made a big deal out of chocolate because it was a long, involved process putting it back together because it was so badly destroyed. It was a big job, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't really what I consider a hard job. It was fairly straightforward, fairly simple job. Sad but true. It was 18 hours work putting chocolate back together, so I charged them $1,800. Now, you might say, well, that sounds like a lot. Some of you might say that. Some of you will say that was a bargain. But I can tell you for black and white certainty, no gray area at all, had that violin ended up in one of the good old boy violin shops, that charge would have been in the $20,000 range to $50,000 range, if not more. And there is no doubt about that. Because they don't play on the same scale that I play on. Anyway, moving on. Let's see. I'm trying to read this, and as you know, I'm a slow reader. Once again, thanks, Clyde, for that super chat. I really do appreciate it. Lots of you are making nice comments about Mary Jane, and thank you for that. She was a great friend. Clyde Lewis says, removing binding behind a neck heel, is neck removal always required, or are there other ways to skin the cat? Okay, if you're talking about the binding that goes between the neck heel and the body, do you have to take the neck out? Well, I don't think I've ever taken a neck out just to get that binding out. So I'd say yes, there's other ways to skin the cat. And probably, if you're going to replace the binding, then the easiest way is probably take a Dremel tool with a real tiny bit and just get in there very carefully and just cut it out of there. You could pick it out with really fine, small chisels and maybe X-Acto knives and things like that. But yeah, I don't really think I've ever taken a neck out just to fix the binding issues like that. So yeah, you should be able to do that without taking the neck out. Mark and company ask, hi Jerry, oh wait a minute. That's a repeat, it looks like. Yeah, actually that one's been repeated twice again. Okay, well, anyway, moving on. Ava Smith says, my dad is doing a neck reset on a acoustic guitar. Do you have any tips for cutting the neck off to make the angle higher? Well, it's one of those deals where you sneak up on it. At least that's my approach. Less is more. You start very minimal. You'd be surprised how quickly the neck angle can change, because when it's just a matter of angle. It's just math, really. You've got a very short heel, you got a really long neck. You change that heel just the teeniest amount, and way out here, that's going to move it way down. My tip is you really want to take just the smallest amount off you can and check it. Small amount, check it. Check it very often and take very, very, very small amounts off, because it will change really quickly, and then you'll be going, uh-oh, I went too far, and then you got the other problem. And then if you take really small amounts off and you're really careful, you may not have to do any shimming or anything like that. It just depends how tightly it fits. You definitely want the neck to fit tight. Glue will not fill a void and hold. It just won't do it. There's no glue out there on the market other than perhaps epoxy, and epoxy has no place in a neck on a guitar or mandolin or anything. So you definitely do not want to have any voids in there when you put the neck back in. You want to make sure that the neck fits it tightly, and that when you wiggle the neck, that it doesn't wiggle, that it's solid to the body. And otherwise, you need to shim it. That's my tips on neck resets. Moving on to the next question. What do you think about two-way truss rods? You jerk. You're a jerk. He's asking because I put out 2 videos recently about two-way truss rods. And I'm pretty sure my position was very clear. When are we going to see Sue, my wife? Probably when you know where freezes over. She does not like the camera at all. So you probably won't. You have seen her. If you've been watching, you'll see her, in the background or moving around or something, but she definitely does not want to be on camera at all. Clyde Lewis, on your fret nippers, when you ground the curve flat, what technique or angle did you use at the grinder? Well, I'll try to simulate it as best I can. It's not real difficult. What I do, see the front of your grinding wheel coming down is very aggressive. Now, I do have a fine wheel and an aggressive wheel, a coarse wheel. So you can do it on the face of it. But quite honestly, and I know a lot of you are going to poo-poo this idea, but trust me, I have been using a grinder since I was 10 years old, 12 years old, somewhere in there. And not a little bit, a lot, because I used to grind all the lawnmower blades for my dad's business. And that was a lot of lawnmower blades, trust me. So if anything I'm an expert at, it would be using a grinder. So you can poo-poo this idea all you want. But honestly, the best way to grind these flat is to go to the side of the disc and to do it like this on the side. If you do it on the face, I can get away with that. But I'll be honest with you, if you're not good with a grinder, doing it on the face, you're going to grind it really fast and make a mess. So you're better off to hold it on the side of the grinding wheel and work it like this. And you just keep working it very lightly because the side is flat. You can keep your angle straight that way because you can see that it's flat, and you can work it up and down lightly on this. Now, you don't put a lot of pressure in it. You just work it lightly, and you just keep working it lightly until it works, until you get it perfectly smooth like that. See, there's no indentation there. It's perfectly smooth all the way across. So that's the technique that I use. Let's see, moving on here. Reading down through here, Danny Brown asks, try 2 tablespoons of apple cider for your arthritis. Well, I'd probably be better off just drinking the apple cider. But I'm not looking for anything to fix anything at this point, but I'm not ruling it out either, so I mean, it wouldn't hurt me to try that. How do you pack guitars for shipping? As carefully as I can. The most important thing about it, I would say, well, the first most important thing about it is to make sure the strings are loose. That could have been part of the issue here on this mandolin. I'm just saying could have been. I'm not accusing them of not loosening the strings. I'm just saying if the strings were tight on this, and if the shippers took this box and tossed it and it banged on the ground, bingo, those 8 strings pulling full tension would break that neck off in a heartbeat. So be sure to loosen your strings. That's job number 1. Job number 2 is to make sure that when you put any instrument in a case, guitar or otherwise, that there's no flopping around inside the case, that it's solid in there. And if it is flopping around, if you shake the case and you can feel it flopping around, put padding in there, packing, old, cloth, whatever it takes to take the play out of the thing inside the case. That's job number 2. Job number 3, of course, is to get a slightly oversized box. You don't want the cardboard on this touching this case. In other words, you want to have air all the way around it, and then you want to fill that air with either something like the poison peanuts that I hate, but they're great for shipping an instrument. They really are. They take up all that space. You can dump those peanuts down in there and it will fill all the voids. And then you want to shake the box and fill the voids and put more peanuts in there. Or you use bubble wrap type stuff. You want to make sure that it's wrapped really secure, and that once you get the box, get this in the box and get all this stuff in there, that when you shake the box, this doesn't shake inside the box. That's as good as you could do. And then, of course, tape it up incredibly good. Make sure that taping is done really well. And then just another tip on shipping is that, and ask me how I know this, is make sure you don't fudge on your measurements. You know, if it's, you know, like 7 1/4, you got to make it 8. You know, it's 8 for shipping. You know, if you try to get by with 7, or, you know, like if it's 7 1/16 and you try to get by with 7, they're going to charge you for 8, and they're going to bill you more later. So, and probably bill you even extra. So you better cut your losses. And if it looks like it could, you know, be just slightly over 7, you better make it 8. You know, that type of thing. So watch that on your shipping. Otherwise, you're going to get nailed with extra costs later. Okay, moving on. Let's see. Scott Roberts says, oh, okay, no, he was just suggesting that Ava put question marks in front of her question. And yeah, I do recommend that you put question marks in front of your question. Clyde Lewis is asking, I just got an 8mm finger plane on your site and was wondering how you approach sharpening a plane blade and positioning the blade. Well, Clyde, I know I have shown it a few times. My problem is I don't really have a library index to all my videos. You know, if I knew then what I know now, I might have hired a full-time person to keep track of all this stuff, because, boy, that's what it would take. It really would, to index all the stuff I've shown in videos over the years. Because any one video could have 10 different subjects in it. That's the first problem. So I know I've shown it, but really, even a tiny blade like that, even that, I'll take it to my grinder and I'll grind a hollow grind in that blade, even that little tiny blade. And I'll grind a hollow grind in there. And the reason I do that hollow grind allows when I go to my sharpening stone and then I just have an Arkansas sharpening stone, I can lay that tip down here, and the very front cutting edge is on there and the heel is on there, but there's a hollow space in between those. And I can lay that on there and I can find the angle perfectly, and then on this very fine stone I can just hone that edge, and then I work it on leather after that. And that's how I do it. I do it at the grinder. And I have actually shown that on a number of videos. And perhaps if you type in RSW and grinder or sharpening or something like that, you'll find it. There's been a couple of them, so you almost no doubt you'll find something if you go out there and look. That's the best I've got for you. Sorry, I can't give you much more than that right now. Billy Porterfield, he has chisel_hide glue, LOL. I'm not sure what he's referring to there. I'm not sure. Let's see. Moving on down. Again, I'm a slow reader, so bear with me for a second till I find it. I think it just scrolled up really fast on me there. I think I lost my place. I did. Doggone it, sorry. Lloyd DeSalt says, did you see the small video clip I sent of the bear that visited my backyard? Lloyd, I don't think so, but I'm behind on watching or getting into my email and all that right now, Lloyd, because of all the traveling I've been doing. I'm really behind, so I apologize. Patty said, my dad made 67 full-size fiddles, several smaller sizes down to a quarter size for his grandkids, 2 violas, and a 5-string fiddle, full-size bass, 4 mandolins, a resonator guitar, and a Hardanger fiddle, by the way. I'm not sure what a Hardanger fiddle is offhand. Seems like I've heard that term, but I don't know what that is offhand. I'll probably go, oh yeah, I know what that is after I hear it, but I can't think of it right now. Scott Roberts, just so you know, when you are off camera and talking, what you are saying in the background shows up on closed caption. So be careful you don't smash a finger. I didn't know that, but thank you, Scott. When I'm on camera, I try to watch my language pretty good. Yeah, I can't say I do that off camera all the time. I have to be honest. Let me find where I'm at again. I kind of lost my place again. Alan Branch says, how often in working on complex repairs do you find yourself stopping and rethinking before rushing a repair and making a bad situation worse? Well, Alan, and I think maybe the older I've gotten, the more I do it, is I stop and a lot of times I'll just leave it set on the bench and I'll go to lunch. And quite honestly, when I'm at lunch, I'll be going, yeah, now I know how to fix that. I'll go back and do it a different way. A lot of times, it's kind of like I used to have to write a lot of technical documents when I worked for Southwestern Bell. I wrote real high-end technical documents on how to design systems, computer systems and things. And, if you let it set and then you go, like the next day, you come back and read it again, you'll find all your mistakes and errors. It's kind of the same thing with doing these kinds of repairs. When you get into it too deep and you're into it too close, sometimes the best thing you can do is get away from it, walk away from it, come back to it fresh, and you'll just see things differently. You'll see things you didn't see. Just like on those documents, I would see mistakes that I didn't realize I had made that day that I was writing it. But when I go back and proofread it, I'd see mistakes. And it's kind of the same kind of thing. You kind of need to get away from it and then come back to it. And I really highly recommend that, especially if you're new to working on instruments and things. Especially if you get to something that you think's really difficult and really hard, set it down, just walk away from it, and then come back to it in a few hours or maybe the next day or something like that. And you'll find that often you'll think of a different idea or a different approach or maybe an easier way to do something. So, yeah, it's a good idea. It really is. Moving on. Alan Branch said Elon Musk is laughing over the two-way truss rod. Yeah, Elon, he kind of feels the same way about stuff that I do. He really does. A lot of ways. There's just a lot of crud out there. The thing that I think most people miss is the marketing hype. There's so much marketing hype in music. It's endless. It's endless. Just like the two-way truss rod. This one has a two-way truss rod. This is the one you want to buy. You'll never use it. It'll never do you a bit of good, but it has one. And now I feel better. No, it's just marketing hype. As I said in the last video, if you see one with a two-way truss rod and it sounds okay, but this one over here that doesn't have a two-way truss rod sounds great, buy the one that sounds great. I guarantee you'll be way ahead. Elon Musk, someone told me that he made the comment that, trained engineers will fix or improve something that we don't even need. And that's true. They will. Because it's there. Paul Akers, is there a chance of the bridge pulling up with the latest Martin repair? I'm absolutely 1,000% Paul that bridge is there to stay. I do not think it will ever give him a problem. In fact, I would say there's less chance of it giving him a problem than when it came from the factory. The factory put on that little chintzy little piece of maple that cracked and broke, and they, didn't have all the finish off when they glued the bridge down the first time. And, it was just a bad situation that, quite honestly, 15 years ago, whenever I fixed it the first time, I had a ton of trouble getting that bridge off. That was one of the hardest bridges that I've ever removed in my whole career. It really, truly was. And wouldn't you know, it'd be on my best friend's guitar. And I just couldn't get that bridge off. It was stuck on with something that I don't know what was, but it wasn't sensitive to heat. I don't know if they put it on with epoxy or what they did, but it just wouldn't come loose, and that was the one where the bridge was in the wrong place. So it had to come off to fix. I mean, I guess there would have been a possibility of recutting the slot in the bridge that existed, but I don't think that was a real good possibility because it would have been so close to the front edge that it would have broken out. The string pressure would have probably pulled the saddle out the front side of the bridge because I would have had to move the saddle a good 1/8 of an inch forward. So the bridge really needed to move on that. And so that's really where all the damage came from, was because that was truly seriously, don't think I've ever had a bridge that was harder to take off than that one. That was that hard. It was hard enough that it made me remember it, and I don't remember a lot of things on instruments because they all run together. But that one stood out. Let's see. So I'm positive it will not give them any more trouble. Just positive, because it went back together perfectly. Codell Cinema asks, my great uncle recently passed. We're way past time, aren't we? My great uncle recently passed, leaving me his 1964 Sears catalog banjo. I am trying to learn, but I'm really new to bluegrass. What should I be listening to? Well, I'm not a banjo expert by that standard, but you can't go wrong with Earl Scruggs. I mean, Earl Scruggs kind of wrote the book on bluegrass banjo. There's a lot of awesome bluegrass banjo players out there, really are. So I guess I'm not the right person to ask on that because I'm not a banjo player, but like I said, you can't go wrong with Earl Scruggs. So anything that, has got him playing is a good thing to listen to. I can tell you that for sure. That's going to be the last word for today because we're way past time. I did not realize that the time had gone. This is my leather hone. It was sitting in front of my clock. I couldn't see it. So thank you so much for tuning in today. We got 166 viewers right now. Patty, I hope you felt good about the tribute we did for Mary Jane there. So she's going to be greatly missed. And we'll see you all probably Monday in the next vlog. Watch for part 3 of the Martin guitar, which I hope will be coming out this weekend if Emery can finish that up.